You're listening to Mic Drop Moments, a podcast brought to you each week with me, your host, Sandra Garlick. During the podcast, I invite guests to share their amazing stories, knowledge, and top tips, including their mic drop moments, especially for you. I also share my learning and inspiration about life, business growth, and visibility. I'm delighted to bring the Mic Drop Moments podcast to you each week to inspire and motivate you to achieve. Enjoy the podcast and don't forget to leave a review. Mic Drop Moments is sponsored by Grow Radio. Want to launch your own podcast? Grow Radio are here to help. Grow Radio has launched and supported countless podcasts, and they'd love to do the same for you. Just hit record and they'll handle the rest. No editing stress, no technical faff, just a great podcast released when you want. Need a little extra support? Grow Radio's workshops and courses make getting started easy. Let's bring your podcast to life. Message Grow Radio on social media. Let's make this happen. Hello and Happy New Year. I don't know if I'm the first person to say that to you, probably not. And if you're waking up with a banging headache, I'm sorry to come in so loud and I'll speak a little bit quieter. But I just wanted to come in because today's episode feels really special because it's New Year's Day and it's also episode 200 of this podcast, which is why I'm bringing a special bonus episode to you. And before I talk about what's next in 2026 and everything like that, I just want to pause and acknowledge the fact that I've reached 200 episodes. Did you know that most podcasts don't go beyond the first series or episode 3? And if there's one thing I know we're very good at doing, it's rushing straight past milestones and celebrations, say, oh, just that, I've just did 200 episodes. But actually, this is a big thing, and I really want to celebrate and acknowledge that today. So it's not about resolutions and reinvention. It's about a little bit of reflection, some celebration, and then looking ahead with clarity rather than pressure. So looking back at episode 1, I can't even remember what it was actually, but I just want to recognise that because when I recorded my very first episode, I didn't have a fancy setup. I didn't have a podcast producer at the time. I didn't know if I liked the sound of my own voice, which, let's be honest, most of us don't at the start. I listened to it back and thought, oh, God, that sounded awful. Oh, God, I say a lot. Oh, I say and and everything else. And we used to edit them out at the start. We don't even do that now. But I remember thinking, who am I to have a podcast? Nobody's going to listen. And I had stalled for 4 years. My podcast was due to come out in 2017 and I procrastinated and I kept thinking, oh, that's hard work. Oh, nobody will listen to it. Oh, who am I going to get to come on it? So the reason I actually created it in the end was because of the pandemic, if I think back, because I wanted to create opportunities for my members in my academy to speak. And I thought, well, this is the ideal opportunity. They get the experience of coming and being interviewed on a podcast. Many of them have never, ever done that before. And I get the opportunity to launch my podcast. And that's exactly how it started. And I'm just absolutely blown away that this podcast has reached that magic number of 200 episodes. And as I say, I didn't have a master plan. I didn't know where it would lead to or who would listen. I didn't know whether it was going to be a 12-episode series and then stop or just continue. And I think at the start, I did them once every month, then every 2 weeks. And then I made the decision to go in weekly and to go full in. And I haven't missed a week since. But I didn't know who would listen. I didn't know if I had stories to share, whether the conversations would open up in the way I wanted. And yeah, I just went with it. And I think so many people I've spoken to this year have said, oh yeah, I'm going to launch a podcast next year. Well, just do it. That's my message to you. But what I didn't expect with my podcast was the impact, messages saying that this episode has really landed exactly where I need it, or people that have come up to me at events and say, I love the episode on, and then they will share the episode with me. And conversations that just started and somebody actually felt seen, or somebody felt I was speaking directly to them. And opportunities that have come from not shouting louder, but from just showing up and being consistent. So I'm really glad that I've reached this point, and I'm just embracing it, celebrating it, and that's exactly why I'm here today. But there were episodes that I nearly didn't record. There were episodes that I think there was one episode that I recorded and realised I hadn't recorded it, and we had to record it again, but it was better. There were episodes that didn't quite land where I expected them to be, but we put them out anyway. And there were moments when life got busy, and moments when I questioned whether anybody was actually listening or no, although I knew they were because I saw the stats. And there were times that it would have been so easy to say, I'll just skip this week. And I think there's only one episode where I've gone back and done a replay. Every single episode has been recorded and is new or is slightly different. And I think we've only done one replay in the whole of those 200 episodes, which I'm really proud of. But you don't always see the impact while you're in it. So I may put out an episode, I may get some downloads, but then I get downloads from like ages ago. I think somebody must discover the podcast and then go back into the back catalogue, which is really lovely to see. And when I did start out, they were only 10-minute coffee chats, and it was called Woman Who Chat, and they were literally 10 minutes long. My idea being that, you had a chance to stop, grab a coffee and listen to an episode. And now they're a little bit longer. They are probably anything from 15 to 25 minutes. The odd episode, and I don't mean odd as in peculiar, but the odd special episode goes for a little bit longer. I don't think they've ever hit 45 minutes, and it would be very rare for it to do so. So, as I said, you don't always see the impact while you're in it. The impact sometimes comes later, and visibility compounds quietly in the background. And above all, consistency always works. And that's one thing I have been with this podcast, and that's being consistent. And some of the episodes that felt the quietest to me turned out to be the ones that people really messaged me about months later. And surprisingly, to me anyway, my solo episodes have had far more downloads than any other episodes, which is really surprising to me because I thought the guest episodes would be the ones that had the highest number of downloads. And it's not all about that to me. It's just, if I could reach one person and it has an impact on one person, I've done my job. And I say that whenever I speak on stages, whenever I do a podcast, whatever I'm up to, if it impacts just one person and they've been able to take action or inspiration from something I've said, job's done. So podcasting has reinforced something I already believed in, but now know for sure. Confidence doesn't come first. Clarity doesn't come first, but action does. So actually taking the action and doing it, I became more confident with each and every episode, and the clarity came as well, which is why I rebranded to Mic Drop Moments earlier this year. And you don't need to be louder, you don't need to be everywhere, and you don't need to be perfect. People really connect, and I've found that through the podcast, they connect to honesty and they trust clarity, and people will always remember how you made them feel. I've also learned that growth isn't about doing more, it's about doing what works and having a purpose behind it. And that brings me exactly to where I want to focus on for the rest of this episode, because it is a special one. So I'm going to talk about 2026, obviously. Because as we step into 2026, I'm seeing very clearly what works and what quietly burns people out. And I'm not saying that from observation only, I'm saying that from personal experience. And I've burned out so many times in the past, and now I'm able to catch myself just at that point of burnout, because it happened again to me this year. It happened again in October. And, as much as I put in place to stop it, I just took my eye off the ball slightly, and it happened again. And I have shared that in a previous episode. And this isn't a trends episode, but it's more of a clarity episode. So the strategies I'm going to share with you, I believe, will genuinely work in 2026. And that's not because they're new. You've probably heard these before, but it's because of what I believe, and I believe they're grounded as well. So my first strategy is connection over noise. God, it was noisy in 2026, 2025, believe me when I say it was noisy then. It's not going to be as noisy in 2026, I don't think, because a lot of people are looking at different things, but it has been terribly noisy on social media. And even I've stepped away at the time of recording this for several weeks. I just can't look at it anymore. It's just really draining. And I want to change that. I want to approach my social media with a different perspective next year. So I think in 2026, connection will outperform noise every single time. Not more content, not more platforms, not more output. I believe some of the most meaningful opportunities I've had don't come from big audiences or viral posts. They've come from conversations. They've come from being in rooms, from somebody saying, I heard you speak, or I listened to that episode and it really made me think. And that's where the conversation starts. That's why I've never believed visibility is about being everywhere. It's about being where you need to be, and it's about being remembered. Because the people who I believe will grow sustainably in 2026, and there will be a lot that won't survive 2026, and I believe the ones that will survive will be the ones focusing on who they are connecting with, not how often they're posting. And when I've encouraged people with my visibility prompts and things like that, it's not about posting 4, 6, 7 times a day on every single platform. It's just focusing on one at a time and being who you really are. I'm briefly interrupting this podcast to tell you about the Woman Who Achieves Awards 2026. Entries are now open until midnight on Sunday, the 15th of February. Just visit womanwho.co.uk/awards for all the information. This is your opportunity to share your story, your achievements, and your goals and aspirations for the future. Plus, entering awards is a fantastic way to boost your visibility in 2026. And this year, there are some brand new questions to really give you value by going through the entry process. It's a huge reflection piece. There are also some great sponsorship opportunities available. Now, back to the podcast. So my strategy 2 is being visibility with intent, and using that intention to be more visible itself isn't a strategy. It's just a sentence and it just tires you out. But I believe visibility works when it's intentional. So thinking about why you're showing up, who you're speaking to, what do you want to be known for? And I've had periods where I've been incredibly visible, speaking, sponsoring, showing up everywhere. And on paper, it looked great, especially in October when I hit that burnout point. But when visibility isn't intentional, it just becomes exhausting. And I was intentional with the way I was showing up, but I'd over committed, and I'd booked in events just to simply attend to be in new rooms. At the same time, I was being intentional, and it just all compounded at the same time. So I'm definitely thinking of doing it slightly differently in 2026. That's my lovely dog agreeing with you there. He's having a good old bark in the background. And I've learned the hard way, obviously, about visibility doesn't always equal better results. Sometimes it just equals that burnout. So I'm being really intentional about my visibility in 2026 and making sure that the strategy that I have for my visibility is really, really curated. And it won't be the people that are the busiest that will see the wins. It'll be the people who've got clarity and are the most intentional. So strategy 3, and it's authority through interpretation. Now, information is everywhere right now, and advice is cheap. There's so much of it out there, but I think authority comes from interpretation. not just the tips, here's top 3 tips, here's 5 tips, here's 10 tips. I think it's from actually making sense of what you're seeing. So, going deeper. And earlier on, I thought I had to sound a certain way, more polished, more professional. And I'll tell you something, I'll share something really honest with you here. A lot of people come up to me and say, do you mind if I have a selfie, or can I speak to you? And then when I talk to them, they say, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that from you. I was a bit nervous coming and saying hello. So obviously, I'm giving out one persona where actually I'm really approachable and fun. So if you see me anywhere, yes, please come and have a selfie. Yes, please come and speak to me, because I'm human just like you. I don't want to be put up on a pedestal. I don't want to be seen as not being approachable. So yeah, I'm working on that myself. But what actually worked for me and is working for me right now is being honest and actually saying what I think, saying the thing and trusting my experience, because I've got a lot of it. And the more I'm starting to sound like me, the more people are leaning in. And I'm doing a lot of work on this right now behind the scenes. And you'll see that I'm showing up in a slightly different way in 2026. And the ones that lead with authority through interpretation and actually sharing what they really stand for, what they really believe in, and what they really think will be the thought leaders that are standing out in 2026. It closely links with strategy 4, which is fewer, stronger signature messages. Yep, my dog agrees with that one as well. So one of the biggest mistakes I've seen is constant reinvention. Oh, that hasn't sold. I'll do something different. I'll create something new. I'll put a new offer out, a new angle, a new message. And it just gets confusing. And I've done it myself. I've been there thinking, oh, that hasn't quite worked. I'll try something different. But actually what I've been doing throughout the latter part and the last month is I've been shedding, and I've been ending all the things that I think are not quite right for me right now. Not that they're not good, and not that they've not been transformative for the people that have experienced them, but just because I've got too much on offer. So I'm really, my word for 2025 was simplify. And I'm almost there now, really stripping it right back. And, it's not coming out with new messages every day, new offers every day, new angles every day. And I used to worry about repeating myself and talking about the same thing. But actually, not everybody sees everything, and repetition isn't laziness, it's actually leadership. And the messages I've repeated the most and the ones that people associate with me are really the ones people take away. So I talk a lot about ethical awards, I talk a lot about speaking on stages, and I talk a lot about business growth and strategy, because they're the things that I really believe in. They're the things I can see transformation in. But they're also things I've got strong views about as well. I've got strong views about a few things, but hey, I'm human, and that's what you will see. So in 2026, repetition with intention will outperform constant novelty and always coming up with that shiny new thing. So if someone can't describe what you stand for in one sentence, you're probably working too hard, and you probably need to simplify things down a little bit. So my 5th strategy is proximity over popularity. Big audiences look impressive. And yes, I do have a big audience for my signature event. There was an audience of 300, but guess what? It's not going to get any bigger than 300. I've gone to a bigger room, but that's more for comfort than for bums on seats. And you'll always hear me talking about my events are not about bums on seats. So whilst the big audiences look great, I'm not looking to create those massive audiences, because I believe proximity creates opportunity. If I walk into a room and there's 500, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, I'm only going to speak to a handful of those people. And I just feel overwhelmed, and it's just too much all at once. So my events will never be more than 300. I can guarantee you that. And, some of the most powerful moments I've experienced haven't been on the big stages. They've been in the small rooms, the small experiences, and the workshops, the strategy days. Oh my God, my strategy days. I only have between 8 and 12 people there. And that's where I've seen some of the strongest connections and conversations this year. And it's where people feel safe enough to be honest. which is why my new Amplify experience, there will never be more than 20 people in there. Once you hit that number of 20, people start to be afraid to show up as themselves. So I will be hosting rooms, I will be creating experiences, and I will be the connector in 2026, and I invite you to do the same. But being close to the right people will matter more than being visible to everybody. So that's just my belief anyway, that proximity over popularity is going to be a massive, massive thing for 2026. My strategy 6, don't worry, there are not many more of these. Being known for decisions, not just ideas. So ideas are easy. I've got an ideas book. It's absolutely full of ideas. They come to me every single day. I'm an innovator. I'm always thinking up new ideas, but I have to park some of them. But decisions are more memorable. So one of the biggest shifts for me has been getting comfortable with making decisions and doing things like withdrawing my speaker bootcamp that not everybody agrees with. And people say, no, I was going to come on your speaker bootcamp. But for me, it's the right decision not to do it anymore. It's a 2-day event. It's absolutely exhausting. I cap the number of people in the room. It made me ill this year. I absolutely love doing it because I give it 200%. But I've found a different way, a way that works for me and gives more to the clients. So I'm putting those boundaries in, and by putting those boundaries in, I've actually brought myself closer to better clients, better conversations, and far more respect. So standing by those decisions, and although there's one decision I didn't come out with in May, I was due to end my awards and didn't, but that is for another reason, which I talk about in another episode. But indecision is invisible, and basically decisions build confidence. So making those decisions, coming up with those ideas, and actually saying, right, this is a good idea, I'm going to take this one forward. And Woman Who was a decision I sat on for 10 years before I made the decision to actually launch it, and that was only because of a broken ankle. So decisions build confidence, and they build confidence in you and the people around you too. So strategy 7 is sustainable momentum. So motivation will come and go. Sometimes you'll be motivated, sometimes you won't. But momentum is actually built. And I've been really interested to hear that a lot of people have picked momentum as their word for 2026, which is fantastic. And I believe the people who will thrive in 2026 won't rely on willpower so much as they will rely on systems, processes, and things they've built in the background. So planning visibility in cycles, building rhythms instead of relying on bursts, and making it easier to continue than stop. And if you looked at my spreadsheet that I've shared with my team, my strategy and planning spreadsheet for 2026, which I shared with them a couple of months ago, there is definitely a system there and cycles. I know exactly what I'm delivering. I know exactly what I'm promoting. I know exactly what I'm going visible about and what I'm promoting each and every month throughout 2026. And that's not being OCD, that's just making it easier for everybody. So everybody around me knows exactly what I'm going to be talking about, including me, which makes my job easier, and building in those efficiencies and systems behind the scenes. So I'm building sustainable momentum that will carry me right the way through the year, and it will make it easier. So, I've realized that growth that costs your health or joy isn't success. It's a warning sign. So growth has to be sustainable, and it has to be, it has to be implemented in a way that works for you. So this episode has probably been a little longer than usual because I wanted to share those strategies with you, those 7 strategies. And I now want to share my word for 2026, which is amplify, which we might think, oh my God, amplify, you're going to be doing far more. Well, no, I'm not. So every year I choose a word, and it's not a goal, it's not a resolution, it's a word that becomes a filter for my decisions. So in 2024, my word was intentional, and everything I did, every decision I made was intentional. My word for 2025 was simplify, and by the end of the year, that was shedding things that no longer aligned with me. That's shedding people as well as things, decluttering the house, shedding possessions, shedding programs and things that I no longer want to deliver. shedding things around me that I'm no longer aligned with. And that also means stepping back from certain rooms. And it's just the way I need to do that. So I simplified during 2026. Now that I've simplified, I want to amplify what I'm doing. That's not about doing more. That's about doing more of what I love and more of what I want to deliver. So I want to be doing more, not being louder. And I think that's the thing that's really crucial for me. So it means tuning up what already works. It means amplifying the right conversations, not adding to the noise. It's about amplifying connection rather than doing more content. It's about amplifying clarity, not making things more complicated. And it's about taking what's already there, the experience I have, a couple of decades now, the lessons I've learned, the relationships I've built, and giving them more space to be seen and heard. And to me, amplify means saying the thing I might once have softened. So that's being true to myself. It's about trusting my voice without over-explaining. And it's about spending more time in the rooms that matter and less time trying to be everywhere. And it's also about amplification through others and supporting others to amplify themselves. So creating platforms where I can create opportunities for people, opening doors for others, making introductions, and using my visibility to lift voices of others, not just my own. So I've always been about creating a platform for others. I always said that my mission was to create more role models to inspire others, and that's something that's my legacy. That's what I want to continue doing. So I'm looking to amplify others, not just myself. And it's about intention. It's choosing what is really aligned with my energy. I talk a lot about the moon and my moon energy, and I've just had a reading about my whole energy cycle and where that comes from. And choosing what grows, choosing what I feel aligned with, choosing what gets louder in my life in business and what doesn't. Choose it where I want to be, who I want to be with, who I want to be seen with, who I want to have conversations with. I want to have deeper conversations. I want to get to know people on a deeper level. So you may hear me talk about shedding my list. Every month I've been deleting people off my list because they're people that aren't engaging with me. They're not my audience. Nothing that they're people that are not just not reading my emails. So they are getting deleted, and it feels good to me. So with the echo of my lovely dog there, if you're choosing a word for the year, as I say, mine is amplify, and that means not doing more, not being louder, just being clearer. And as you think about your year ahead, I'd love for you to ask yourself this. What do you want to amplify in 2026? So as I look ahead to 2026, my focus is on depth, as I've said, deeper connections over breadth. That's being in more places, being in the right rooms, choosing where I want to show up. Connection over noise and clarity over absolute chaos, which is why I'm going to look very organised. And I am very organised in the background. And it's about creating spaces where people feel seen but not sold to. About helping people to speak, to share up, to show up in ways that feel really aligned rather than just giving a bland performance. So if you're listening to this special episode 200 on New Year's Day, or maybe after, if you're just sleeping things off, maybe you're listening to it quietly with a cup of coffee, or you're driving along in the car. I just want you to know this. You don't need to create a new version of you. Gosh, if we kept creating a new version of ourselves every year, we'd be absolutely exhausted. We'd have a party with ourselves, really, with all our past lives. So you don't need to rush this either. And you don't need to prove anything to anybody else. You just need to be you and where you feel best aligned. And you just need to begin gently. You don't have to delve into any of this at all. And grow steadily. Make yourself grow sustainably. And you're allowed to celebrate how far you've already come, as I'm celebrating with this 200th episode. So I'm more convinced than ever that visibility is not about being everywhere. And I say often, visibility is about appearing to be everywhere, even when you're not. So if you're remembered by being in the right places, if you're seen as a trusted individual, and you're seen as being a real person, then you are going to appear to be everywhere, because people will be talking about you, because you'll be head and shoulders above the rest, and you'll appear out of the noise with that clarity and confidence. So I'd like to thank you for listening to this special 200th episode. Thank you for celebrating with me. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my strategies for 2026. And thank you for being a part of this journey so far. And if you've just joined me and just coming into my world, I can't wait to find out more about you and connect with you in 2026. And I'll be back next week with another episode of Mic Drop Moments. Thank you for listening to the Mic Drop Moments podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Join me next week for more inspiration, learning, and top tips. Want to work with me on your business growth and strategy, speaking, or simply growing your audience? Just get in touch. Visit womanwho.co.uk to find out how you can start your speaking and visibility journey, or even feature on a future podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's podcast. And if there are any topics you would like to hear, just get in touch with me, your host, Sandra Garlick.